Good day, wherever you're viewing us from in the world. My name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature, and I'm the self-published author for several books. This program is titled Investor's Guide. The key focus of this program is really to bring to you a high level of information in terms of the financial market, helping you to understand financial portfolios, how to access those portfolios, how to leverage it, and how to mitigate their portfolios. This platform will also help you to understand how to start your business and how to scale your brand with local, regional, and international relevance. Today with me in the studio is no other than Omar. Omar is an investment banker all the way from UK, England, London. And today he will be talking to us about his investment and portfolio. Welcome, Omar. Great to have you here.
Gary, how's it going?
Awesome, my friend. Awesome. All right. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Now, the first question I want to put to you, I know that you are a representative of Chartered HCP.
Yes.
How would you define Chartered HCP? Is it a global intermediary or is it a boutique intermediary?
So we are a investment / bank, Gary, and we are effectively a boutique bespoke foundation. We're a principal lender, so we are not a middleman nor a broker. We deal solely with all of the liabilities in-house and underwrite all of the terms and conditions. With our high experience within our board and our reputation within the space, we're able to scale our reach far across the globe. So we are only based in the UK, but we also funding partners that we underwrite all of the funding terms and conditions for in the USA, the Caribbean, all around Europe, and of course in London in the UK.
Okay. I've recognized that you've spread your tentacles across the breadth of United States. I see you not only invested in businesses, but you're also supporting government initiative. And I do believe that that is definitely visionary thinking in terms of business. What is your role in the Chartered HCP, and what inspired you to become a private equity investor?
Gary, my background was always in construction development, so I always had a know-how with regards to land acquisition, property development, portfolios, and essentially how to make money off these sorts of deals. My role in Charter is I work in association for them, and essentially I am a business development manager. So I interact with people like yourselves. I essentially make all of the deals happen, bring everything to the table, and ensure that the people that require the funds have the right information to obtain the funding, and of course make sure that we uphold our end of the bargain by providing that funding to the clients.
Awesome. Now, I recognize that your lending portfolio range between 500K to 5 to 10 billion Ks. I mean, can you give us some more idea about those portfolios?
Yeah, I mean, we do look at all of Gary. We obviously over here with myself and my own business and with Charter, we essentially look at the long-term relationship that we build with our clients. We're not looking for just a quick deal. We're looking to fund all of the projects, to joint venture with you, to take businesses to that next level, or to take over other businesses' role where they haven't been fulfilling. Essentially, we range anywhere within the care sector, institutional funding. We're looking at a couple of projects based in Manchester in the United Kingdom at the minute, which are only 200-300K care bed foundations for the NHS nursing accommodations. And then on the top scale, we're looking at oil refineries based in Indonesia for £7.5 billion, where they are buying over 100,000 hectares of land and they're actually developing oil refinery plants, which are getting sold back to the grid and around the world. Essentially, if it makes commercial sense, Gary, we're definitely interested and we'll take a look at it.
Awesome. And what I've noticed also, your portfolio for London is broad. You go from real estate to oil and gas to agriculture, and I think that that is very, very unique. But what I'm seeing also, you also give 100% funding available when you
Yes,
come
Gary.
in.
Yeah. Me and you know each other, so we've discussed this. 100% finance isn't something I tend to market. And the reason that I don't tend to market it is because you do get a lot of time wasters.
Yeah.
You get a lot of really that don't have the substance nor the profit to actually fund them. But saying that, 100% finance is, of course, something we offer. Normally, in those certain circumstances, you would need, say, the assets, very low liabilities, and the key factor to it would be personal experience or business experience actually producing those projects. And these items, the assets, as well as the experience, would form something what we call a PG, which is a personal guarantee. Essentially, also within that, people tend to use their own houses, or they tend to leverage off properties or other portfolios that they have to actually produce a collateral, if you will, for the 100% finance. Don't get me wrong, that we understand that there are some developers, some we're working with at the moment, where they simply want to scale their business, but they have money tied up already within real estate, or they already have money tied up within previous developments. And they've got projects that landowners want to get rid of. So if they can't get the funding, they will lose the potential profit. So, of course, why not leverage off somebody like us with the 100% finance option? Because they already have the experience, they have the assets with very low liabilities, we're able to then take them to that next level. And just touching base on that as well, if there are startup companies as well that have a track record where it's not something new and bespoke, then we, of course, offer 100% finance there. But as you know, Gary, everything is always subject to due diligence and AML checks.
But you're perfectly correct. And I was just about to come to that point of due diligence, because we're also happy to be collaborating with your brand. And a critical role that we see that we can play is to support in that due diligence aspect. You know, I would normally say to client, access to capital is one thing, but one of the things that you want to do long before you take the capital is to ensure that you understand the accommodators and the enablers. That means that you know how to cash flow the debt or equity. So those are things that we definitely will have to look at, before, you disburse any 100% funding. It's not automatic, it's conditioned based on the readiness of the business owners to cash into that kind of opportunity. But you have said it pretty well. All right, I want to look at what are two major accomplishments you have attained in your years as private equity investor. What are two major accomplishments? I know we have just spoke about Turks and Caicos and the massive projects that you're currently looking at there. Perhaps you may want to add to that.
Yeah, so I would say with I've been in this role as an entrepreneur, one of my greatest accomplishments is certainly the Turks and Caicos hotel resort, which is being constructed by Waldorf Astoria. They're going to be one of our buying partners. Essentially, it's £350 million, and it's going to be one of a kind and last of its kind hotel resorts, with numerous villas up to 15-16 million pound per sale and per unit. It's an amazing project. It's also government backed, and also opens it up to other real estate and developments within the Caribbean islands. Another one of my very big accomplishments as well was a mega city that we built in South Africa, which has also partnered with the government, which was $450 million. And that was just on such a huge scale, the amount of time that went into it, and we were just really, really appreciative and grateful to be a part of that. We actually flew over there to South Africa and met the partners and the principals over there to do some of the due diligence, as you will, you know. We're lending such amount of money, we need to see that the land's actually there, what's actually going on. But yeah, I'd say that those two are very, very good. But the biggest accomplishment, Gary, is really being able to connect with other fellow entrepreneurs and actually give them that stepping stone to get them to where they need to be at the end of the day. And it's the person that is sort of a joint venture. You know, we're not only lending them the money, but I feel like we're doing the project with them. You know, we're actually coming along for the ride, which is a very big accomplishment in my personal goals.
But you could not have said that any better. One of the things that I would normally say is that it makes a lot of sense as an investor to not just put the capital on the table, but also to help the client. Because one of the things that we're seeing is that there are many persons who are in business, and all they're doing is taking a slice of the cake in the potential of that business to cash flow. So when the right investors come in, the right investors are coming in and they're looking at things as market size. They're looking at things like expanding your market, you know, locally, regionally, and beyond. The primary objective is to scale that business as fast as possible and hand them back their equity so they can stand on their own 2 feet. Or if they want to prolong the relationship, definitely there is that option that is open still. But you know, business is a game that where you want to identify market opportunities. You want to help the beneficiaries to capitalize on that within the shortest possible time and scale and make impact. So I really like the model that you're using, and I'm really loving the synergies that we're going to bring here to be able to give businesses the fighting chance to really scale and make global impact. What would you say is your biggest vision you have in mind for 2022 as it relates to working with businesses? What are your biggest vision?
Well, our numbers, Gary, we're looking to fund, personally, through myself, I'm looking to fund £1 billion worth of projects this year. And I think I'm well on the way to that, with over £1 billion in the past month. Very, very achievable. In terms of personal goals, is that what you mean? Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at business goals, and I think it's very ambitious to want to allocate £1 billion out to beneficiaries, and I think that is definitely a big milestone. That means that you're thinking big projects, and I really love that. So I'm talking, yeah.
When
Go
I
ahead.
see something less than 10 million, it doesn't hurt my ears up.
I got you.
Yeah,
Right.
so, I mean, milestones for this year, with Charter and myself and whoever is coming along for this fantastic journey, want to get to a stage where by the end of the year, there's enough capital within the business to actually go out and fund a profit business that is going to fund a non-for-profit business. That's really where my heart lies. And that is really what I aspire to be. I want to give back to the community. I want to give back to people that cannot give for themselves at the end of the day. And I believe non-for-profit foundations are amazing to be involved in. But you know as well as I do, without actually having that capital in the first place,
Yeah,
it's very possible.
you're perfectly correct. I'm happy that you mentioned not-for-profit, non-profit. We have a lot of talking to do because, you know, one of the things that I really want us to look at is how we can really help companies to develop the right corporate culture where every single person's within the organization feel as though they're part of the family. We have developed a very unique ecosystem where we really work with companies to really help them to understand how to build a value proposition. one of the things that we see is that in starting a business, you're looking on cash flow maximization, and there's nothing wrong with cash flow maximization. But then you look at cash flow maximization at the disadvantage of your workforce. So your workforce feel as though they are not, much attention is not paid to them. They become demotivated. You start to have absenteeism, and then you start to have staff turnover. And that affects the entire vision of the organization. So it begins with really helping companies to have the right corporate culture that is, inclusive of the workforce and that vision that they have for the organization. So those are some things that we will talk about as we strengthen our synergy, our partnership to make stronger impact on businesses. Yeah. All right. The next question I want to put to you is, how would you define your ideal client? Are they small businesses, medium-sized businesses? How would you define your ideal client?
I mean, most people tell you ideal client is the one that will pay you the most money, but that is not your ideal client. The ideal client is somebody that's going to come back to you.
Yeah.
That is the ideal client. Look, at the end of the day, we all want to earn money. So money is a big thing in business. That's why we're in business. But I believe it's all about standing out. So if we're able to stand out, provide a smooth, seamless service, where it's easy, you do the application, you speak to us, the communication is fluent throughout, we lend you the money, there's no hidden extras, it is what it says it is, black and white, the deal is vanilla, then you're going to come back to us and we're going to be with you throughout your whole journey of your business growing. If a business is lending money, they're doing business. That is their business. They're not going to stop wanting to lend money. So if you provide them a good service, they're going to continue coming back to you. So for me, the ideal client is one that's going to come back to me. But of course, to get that ideal client, I need to provide the ideal service. So that's kind of what I aim for.
You got it. Now, as we look at your ideal clients, I mean, from your experience, what are some of the challenges that you see that they're faced with? We have studied businesses across the world, and what we have seen is that one, over 20% of business startups fail, and within the first year, over 50% fail by year 5, and only 33% survive after the 10-year life cycle. And they're failing for known reasons, and we have documented some of that. Some may have to do with, visionary thinking, where we call, are they thinking ahead? Are they seeing beyond problems? Are they able to take informed action to achieve desired results? We have seen things like weak corporate culture affects how those businesses are able to position themselves to make impact. We're seeing limited market research, where they're not able to identify their market size, identify the needs, wants, and expectation of the specific target market so as to build out their value proposition to impact that target market. So there are a number of things that we're seeing that businesses are faced with in growing and scaling and expanding. But guess what? These are businesses that may have good brand. But from your perspective, what are some of the challenges faced by your ideal client? In your years of experience, what are some of those challenges that you were seeing?
Yeah, touch base on some of the really good ones, Gary. My key ones would obviously be, one, not knowing what your numbers are. Numbers is absolutely key. I get so many projects coming in, and they've not allowed for this fee, they've not allowed for that fee, and then they haven't done the right market research, like you said, about what the red book valuations are, what the property's worth, what would it be worth by the time they finish. Are there any other local developments within the area that will make them struggle to actually get rid of the portfolio? In turn, they'll be sitting on it for a longer period of time, paying more fees. So the market research is absolutely a massive one for me that I keep seeing quite a lot. Knowing your numbers, the market research, and I'm sure you'll agree, is a roadmap. A lot of these people, they don't have a roadmap. It's like, I see this deal, it's going to earn me 500 grand. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing this. That's it. And they're not thinking about, okay, right, I've finished this now. I need to sell this. And they're just taking everything at chance, you know, instead of having an actual roadmap, step by step. This is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to scale. This is the market research. This is the tangible evidence we have right now. You know, obviously there's unforeseens, but if you have done enough of your research, you should be able to cover all of those bases, and therefore you can put contingencies in place, which is what we do with most of our clients. We normally do 5 and 5 or 10 and 10, which basically means we'll add 5 or 10% to the build costs or to the purchase, and then we'll take 10 or 5% off of the sale price. Then that way your quid's in and you've got a buffer zone. So if anything does happen, because it always does, then you're covered with those contingencies. And it's the same with any business.
You're perfectly correct. And I'm happy that you put emphasis on research, because one of the things that we're seeing as investors is that there are entrepreneurs who are developing their business plan and they're giving you financials. But guess what? The financial is based on speculative data. They didn't do.
It's based off of what they.
Yeah, you know, they're speculative. And I would normally say to, you know, young investors, if you're coming to seasoned investors and you're speculating about your finances, they're going to know because they understand the market. Sometimes we see that some of these guys even disregard the secondary data. And if they bring secondary data can be outdated. Many persons run away from the primary market research because it says a cost attached to it. But I would always say the cost justifies the end. Because doing primary research, 100%, yeah. Because the research means that you're getting your feet in the boots, you get into the ground, you're getting some skin in the game, and you are actively building out relationships with the potential users of your brand. So by the time you finish that research, you have a few hundred or 1,000 persons in your portfolio that you know are your direct buyers, all right? And they can start the cash flowing process. They can refer you to other persons. And from this standpoint, you have to know. So I really love that you emphasize the importance of market research.
Yeah, and just
go ahead.
Which I didn't mention, and I'm glad you mentioned it because it had me chuckling right here. People would they look at the speculative data that they've looked up themselves, so they spent a bit of time, you know, and you're looking at 10, 20, 30, I mean, even £1 million project. It's a lot of money compared to some people. In comparison to what you would pay for this proper market research by a professional, they're not willing to spend the money. They're not willing to spend £2,000, the £3,000, the £5,000 to know if it's possible you could be losing tenfold.
Exactly.
You know, these people are there for a reason. So that is absolutely key. And it's worth the money if you're going into this sort of industry, because it's better to know than to not know.
Exactly. You know, we're on the same page with that, you know, because market intelligence is power in the hands. You know your market size, you know your market needs, you know their wants, you know how to build out a value proposition to reach their expectation 101%. You know your competition, you know the gaps, you know how to navigate the market to fill those gaps. Without the information, you can't make an informed and educated business decision. All right. So this is going to be part of the value that we can bring to businesses that wants to borrow from your portfolio. And that brings me to the next question I'd want to ask you. And that is, how do you see your brand value proposition and fixing those challenges that businesses are faced with? And I do believe that you've hit on them, but I don't know if you want to amplify it a little bit more, because I think your value proposition is more than just the cash. Your value proposition is the market intelligence. Your value proposition is how you position the business for success, and you're going to make impact these big. Can you emphasize on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, just touching very real. I will always look over any problem with anyone, because at the end of the day, time is precious, and I don't want to waste no one's time. So, with my experience working in the construction industry and working very close in real estate agents, I kind of can get a feel for everything myself. So, I will make an informative decision before I take that next step. With regards to the actual funding, obviously we are an equity partner, debt finance company. We also bridge, and we are essentially your funders. But if there are areas where we feel you are lacking, we will step in. You know, we will say, look, okay, you want this, but in order for you to get this, you need to put this person on your board. You know, you need to JV with a developer to strengthen your pitch. And also, we offer forward funding options, which is essentially, say, for example, you would buy a site at £10 million with a 30% profit. If you're giving 100% finance, they normally want a 50% profit share. So they would essentially buy the site at a discount, so 15% discount, as it's a 30% profit. So they would purchase the site at 8.5 million. So by the time you finish the project and you finish painting, you can then go on to the next project. The equity partner has already bought you completely out because they have the capital and the know-how to actually sit on those properties. And you don't then have to wait a whole year to sell everything, pay all of these agent fees and all of these other lawyer fees. You can literally move straight on. So we're able to put them into contact and actually consult them on a consultant basis, as well as actually give them the funding that they require. Because at the end of the day, we do have to put things in place if things go wrong. You know, we all do. We all have to minimize risk at the end of the day. But we never want to seize assets. We never want to take jobs away from people. We just have to cover ourselves. So if we feel like we need to step in and assist, we will, because at the end of the day, we don't want to just take the last resort and take everything away and get our money back. We want to build long-lasting relationships with people. So if it means us stepping in and acting as a consultant, we're more than happy to do so.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And again, we have the same ideology, and that's why in our portfolio, we work with the client to help them to understand the financial instrument. We work with the client to help them to understand the smart ways to access it, smart ways to leverage the portfolio, and also how to mitigate the entire process. And that's a subject matter that we'll get into later on. But we are on the same page. We have similar ideology in terms of how we can impact businesses. And that's one thing that I love about the synergy that we have formed here. And the last question I want to ask you, and I really love that you dig into the fact that you want to not just provide the funding, but you want to provide the technical support to ensure that these businesses survive and strive. So I want to ask you the leading question: how would you want to be remembered as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a big question. I want to go down as a legend.
Repeat that.
I want to go down as a legend.
As a legend. Okay.
As a legend.
I got you.
No, in all serious, Gary, look, we all want to leave our mark on the world. For me, obviously, money is a nicety, but I'm here to create generational wealth, Gary. The education system fails so many people all around the world. I want to give back to people that are struggling. I want to help educational systems, non-for-profit foundations. I want to be remembered as the person that helped businesses get to their next level, helped businesses that had nowhere to go, helped people become other entrepreneurs and be successful. That is how I want to be remembered, Gary.
You sound as though you're taking those words out of my mind, my brother.
Yeah. I was in your mind there.
Okay, I love that. Again, this synergy is so unique because we have so much in common. And in my books that I've written, I talk a lot about this. You know, your workforce, they are not your slave, and they are human beings too. And we definitely need to, build that corporate culture to make sure that we are creating that solid impact on the human lives. And we don't have to look very far for that, because when we look at the top 100 companies, we can see the top 100 companies in the world, they are successful because they manage their operation in a humane manner. All right. And that's something that we will be looking for as we, provide financial support and technical support to businesses across the world. So I'm happy that you would have ended on that note. I think I agree that financial literacy has to become more commonplace. And that is something that we are beginning to do some more work on in the Caribbean and across the world. So my friend Omar, I must say it has been such a pleasure talking with you today. And this is not the first and the last. There is so much more of this that we have to do as we synergize to put our brand in front of people across the world. So I'm going to give you the last word before I pull the curtain down on today's program.
Gary, the pleasure is all mine. The next time we speak, let's get out there and start offering the value that we have. Let's not undersell ourselves here.
Awesome. All right, thanks again, Omar. I know how busy you are. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time out to sit with me today on Investor's Guide. And we'll talk very shortly. Have a great rest of the day.
No, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Thank you very much for having me. And to all you investors out there, you're not too far away from reaching that next step.
You got it. All right, my friend. All the best.
Take care, Gary. Thank you.
All right.